Hey, what's up, and welcome to the very first biocongruence course. We're going to walk you through the process of what it means to go do a biological baseline protocol and incorporate that into your daily activity. My name's Robbie Higgins.
And this is Esteban Bias. For those of you guys that are tuning in and you've never heard of biocongruence, we're going to cover fundamentals. We'll share a little bit of our story, what it means to be biocongruent, and what to expect out of the practice that we're going to teach during this course.
Just to make it really simple, biocongruence translates into work with your biology. That's the easy, simple translation of it. For me personally, I know one of my biggest struggles, I went through a really rough time in my life about 15 years ago, and I decided to make some changes. I did what many other people do. We start to first like recognizing, oh man, there's got to be a better way, and start going out and acquiring knowledge. So I've learned from all these different teachers after years and years. It didn't feel like it was going anywhere. The only thing that changed was I was able to acquire more information, and it did help my journey, but I couldn't figure out how to connect the information and have it translate into my life. I guess it reached one of those enough is enough points. So it was like a 15-year journey. And it really wasn't until the last 3 years where that enough is enough. Something's got to give, something's got to change. When I really traced it back, it all started with one like critical, non negotiable step. I have to get my biology right first. I have to get my mind, my body, and my nervous system at level by which I can actually take the actions necessary rather than to just acquire the information. I need to be able to take the actions and incorporate those actions into habits, because it's the, sow a habit, then you reap a destiny kind of thing. I knew without really figuring that part of the equation out that I was going to be doomed to chronic procrastination, and just knowing that I had this potential within me, but never really knowing how to bring that potential out into the world. Recognizing that I had these gifts and this medicine that I had to give to the world to make the most out of my life, but without having a protocol in place to make these things a part of my daily life and a part of my identity, that it was never going to happen. And that was really the root of where biocongruence was born. I need to learn how to work with my biology. So that's a very condensed version of my story. And it's been transformational. Just understanding this step one process, get your biological baseline correct. And it's been amazing. You've had some pretty significant transformation through this process as well, Esteban.
Yeah, my story is very similar to yours. One of the things that I relate to is that I was a heavy development junkie, an information junkie. Like I love to read and to study self-help material. And I did that for so many years, and I'm sure that it really did help me a lot. But there were times that I felt like I would always hit a brick wall. I really dived into the field and really hoping that change would happen, but the change that I expected and really desired didn't really happen. In fact, many times my life got worse. I didn't feel equipped or had the tools to overcome those challenges. I would go into either depression or distraction, get distracted by binge watching shows or movies, just not doing the work. That was my biggest pain. My biggest pain is that eventually I found myself thinking that I was doing everything right, but going through a divorce, which really shook me and got me into a very deep depression, and totally lost my sense of purpose and my sense of wanting and desire to live and do something great. I knew that I had something great within me, but there was no way. I felt like a failure. So having all those failures, what I thought were failures at that time, was the catapult that led me to keep seeking and searching. We became friends over a 10-year friendship. So those of you that are tuning in, we didn't just meet the other day. Like, we've been at this for years. We've been doing this process of self-discovery and figuring out how to make life work. And for me, it was more about figuring out a way to cope and deal with life, but not only cope with it, but find a way to thrive in the chaos, in the disorder, in the lack of certainty, right? When things are at their worst, how can you still thrive? And we're going to go over it in what we call the protocol. So we have a ton of vocabulary that you may not identify with at first, but when we explain it, you'll understand it and you're going to love it, because if you can relate to these feelings of depression, fear of failure, massive stress and anxiety, and not being able to deal with those things, where you just want to check out pretty much, because that's what I used to do. That was my coping mechanism, was to check out. I would get distracted and find ways to not have to deal with it, until through our conversations throughout the years, we figure out some healthier ways to not just cope, but overcome these things. The biocongruence protocol really does help deal with life. You can really experience what I was looking for in the personal development community. I was looking for satisfaction. I was looking for deep life satisfaction, a sense of purpose and well-being. I can say that every day that goes by, because of what we do every single day with these practices that we're about to introduce you to, you can definitely find satisfaction in your life and a sense of purpose and well-being. With that said, what can people expect?
I think it is a little bit important to point out that when this thing started, it was so much more involved. And I was trying to sign people up and come on, do this thing with me. I had to really scale it back and chunk it down and get right down to what's really important and what's really demanded of us to do it. What to expect is you're working with three core ideas that show up in our entire human experience from the day we're born to the day we die. And we're working with our mind, our body, and our nervous system. The protocol is 7 practices or activities that are always going to focus on one or more of these 3 core things: the mind, the body, and the nervous system. And that is the biological baseline. Now, when we can bring a sense of like regulation, like we can call it like self-regulation, to those 3 core aspects of our life, then that's what makes stress and anxiety and depression and overall life navigation so much more accessible and easier, is when these things aren't hijacked and get away from us. So that's what the 7 activities focus on, is basically training these 3 things: the mind, the body, and the nervous system. So that's the whole idea behind biocongruence, working with your biology, starting with your biological baseline. So what to expect going through this course is we're going to cover each of the 7 activities. We're going to walk you through how to set a proper, actionable goal. And it's really set up so that you win, so that you standardize before you optimize. So the demands are much less significant in the beginning, because the whole idea is to wire these practices into your identity.
Now, Robby, I know that a lot of the people taking this course for the very first time, they're going to be hearing different ideas, right?
Right.
Standardize before you optimize. Can you explain that a little bit?
So I believe James Clear was one of the first people. He wrote the book Atomic Habits, and he was one of the first people. Give credit where credit's due.
Yes.
And the idea of standardize before you optimize, I think one of the examples that's used is a lot of times we come out of the gate like a New Year's resolution and we say we're going to run for 3 miles every single day. And we haven't ran possibly ever, or we haven't done it in 5 years. And that is a goal that is doomed for failure, because it's just such a high demand. That is an optimal, that is an optimizing. A way you would standardize it and really simplify it so that you can wire it back into your brain as, hey, I'm somebody who runs, is you could just make a commitment to put your running shoes on and go open your front door and then close your front door. And if you did that every single day for a month, chances are you won't even go a month. If you made a commitment that no matter what, every single day I'm going to put my running shoes on and I'm going to step out the door, eventually you're going to say, this is ridiculous. You'll probably get 4 or 5 days into it and you go, I'm at least going for a walk. And then the walk becomes a run. And then maybe you start with a walk run and you do a mile. And then the point is you got to standardize the habit first. That's where we start with setting that biological baseline is we want to standardize the 7 activities. We really want to standardize them in our day before we start trying to optimize them because we have to identify as, I know we haven't gotten into them yet, but as somebody who has a breathing practice, somebody who has a meditation practice, somebody who has good sleep hygiene, somebody who exercises daily, somebody who has a gratitude practice, somebody who has good nutritional habits. And I don't know if I miss anything, and we'll go into everything a little deeper, but that's it. Standardize it into the identity.
So you're going to hear that a lot. Standardize before you optimize. The other thing, Robbie, the 7 practices, we have a name for them. This is our biological baseline protocol. From this point on, when we talk about the 7 practices, we're going to be referring to them as the protocol. So every time we say the protocol, we're talking about these 7 practices. So just keep that in mind. If you hear the protocol, you know that we're talking about the biological baseline practices.
As far as preparing people for what to expect, I don't know that we could do it in words. It's one of those things I know for myself and for the others we have taken through this process. This has been such a transformational experience. And the transformation, it sneaks up on you, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's just a simple if the situation where if you do this, then this will be the result. And if you do these 7 things every day, then it is going to transform the experience you have in life.
And it's interesting that you say that the transformation sneaks up on you, and it could potentially be different for everybody, the different transformations that do happen and take place. I do want to say that for me, the transformation that kind of snuck up on me was that I was living life feeling highly stressed and almost always with a sense of anxiety, that there was this background anxiety that something was going to go wrong because it always went wrong. Something bad always happened. And being able to reduce that and to experience calm. I remember when I started to feel it after doing it for a few days, I was like, wow, I have a peace that I've never experienced before. And that was because I was learning how to work with my nervous system. So my nervous system was in overdrive, and I was able to bring my nervous system down through the protocol, the 7 practices. And it does sneak up on you. You'll wake up one day and you'll be like, man, I feel great. So I know what you mean. And the transformation for me in this sense was feeling that peace, to have that certainty that everything is going to be okay. So that was a big one for me. What was a transformation that you experienced, Robbie, with
So
the protocol?
I think leading up to this process, I think it is worth noting that I used to be about 100 pounds heavier than I am now. I wasn't clear on what I was doing when I lost all the weight, but this is one of those things I wish somebody explained to me. And all the time I spent chasing my own tail trying to figure stuff out, and I did figure stuff out, but oh my God, it took years. I wish somebody would have said, this is all you got to do and do this every single day. The big transformation that showed up since all this information has been condensed in the form it is now is that I at least over the years got to a point where I really knew I was capable of so much more, but I lacked the willingness to take the actions every day. So one of the transformations for me is that I am learning grit and I am cultivating this sense of autonomy in my life through this practice. One of the reasons for that is because up until that point, it was like I didn't really take time out to do the things that I needed to do for myself and take care of myself in a way that it felt like it was mine. It always felt like what I did for work, what I did at home, my time belonged to everybody else. And this was one of the very first times where I put my foot down and I said, you know what? This time that I'm taking out to do these practices every day, this is for me. This is by me and this is to me. That was when I really started cultivating that sense of autonomy. I'd say the biggest transformation is that I now feel like not just that I'm capable, but I have the skills. I know what it looks like, what it feels like to move in a direction and to do the action every day to move myself in a direction of my choosing, where I am trying to get to with my life. I don't know how that's coming across over video, but I can't express enough how much of a game changer and how much of a transformation that is for me today, coming from where I was.
You discover your purpose, you lost the weight, you lost the extra pound. So
Yep.
that's the physical weight, but you also lost the emotional baggage that you were carrying.
I haven't carried that stress and that anxiety with me for some time. I think that's part of having a practice like this in your life is you're much less likely to take it on,
Yeah.
to navigate it proactively and instead of reacting to everything that life throws at you.
I love that about the protocol. It gives you tools so that you can exercise and train the two things you mentioned, both of them. I'm going to point them out:
Yeah.
autonomy and grit.
Yeah.
Those two things is really what the protocol is going to help you train. If you decide to join us, we do a challenge. This is not just a practice that you could do by yourself, you could do with us in a community, right? So this is something that we want to invite you to. Somewhere on this page we're going to put the links for you to access the community. Again, this is completely complimentary, right? This is free. We want people to have these tools. I think when they started to come out for us, when we started to call them names and create our own vocabulary around them, was because of the COVID thing. This was during COVID, I remember, where we really needed tools to cope with the uncertainty and the stress that I was experiencing. And because of our friendship and our check-ins that we always do, this was what worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
So
keeps your feet on the ground.
it does. It does. So do you want to tell everybody about the 77-day challenge?
Yeah, so real short, we've already touched on it. It's do these 7 things every day. In the spirit of standardizing before you optimize, you can realistically go through this entire 7 item checklist in less than 30 minutes. And you do it every day for 10 straight weeks. If you're doing it with the group in the community, then you check in with the community, let them know that, hey, I'm in, I did my 7. You can also kind of post wins and celebrate the wins and successes of others. And on the 11th week, we're actually going to spend that 11th week reflecting, because that is such a critical part of the step in anything we do in life, especially when we're venturing outside of our known and our comfort zone, is to be able to have a soundboard and have a feedback mechanism built in place so that we can really think about where we came from, where we're at today, and where we plan on taking it to the future. That's the 3 key points of reflection: is where it came from, where it got us today, and then where we intend to take it from here. So that would be the 11th week. And we repeat it. We do it because I know for myself personally, I grow every single time I do it. Each one is going to start on the second Monday of every quarter of the year for as long as, yeah.
As long as we go, right?
Yeah. Honestly, as long as I'm here, I
Yeah.
get so much from this process, and I can't see how I could not get a ton from this process, because as I evolve, my personal process evolves. And that's the beauty of it, is that it is really infinitely scalable. And getting the biological baseline is just the beginning, but it is the beginning. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. This is step 1. We've got to get our biological baseline set in order to support us as we grow and evolve.
Yeah. We covered what biocongruence is, we covered the protocol, and we covered the 77-day challenge. So somewhere on this page, please go ahead and sign up to the community. Again, there's no charge to be part of our community. Just sign up, and wherever it is that you're starting right now, every quarter, do this challenge, because it's going to significantly change the quality of your life. And that we can guarantee it will change the quality of your life. With that said, brother, do you have anything else?
Yeah. Guess we're on this journey together, man.
That's right. So journey well, my brother.
And stay curious.
All right. We'll see you on the next one.